Do you need some practice making wire wrapped loops? Now, if you do make this bracelet, you will be an expert at wire wrapped loops by the time you're finished. You've come to the right place because I'm making a bracelet today with lots and lots of them. Hello and welcome back. My name's Carol. When I made my boho teardrop necklace a few weeks ago, I was wearing a bracelet made with the same snail-shaped beads, and today I'm going to be doing the tutorial for that one. So let's get started. I will walk you step by step through the process of making this one, as well as talk about everything you need. Now remember to watch to the end of the video because I have a discount code for you where you can get 20% off all of the supplies I used for making this bracelet. Here are the supplies that you need to make this bracelet. Now I'm going to start off with these snail-shaped Czech glass beads. They're gorgeous. Their colour is masala and they have an AB finish. And I'm also going to be using some 8x6 red faceted rondelles. These ones have an AB finish. I've got some 6mm faceted round beads here. These are glass and this is the colour lilac. And I've got some aqua ones in the same type of bead. I've also got some 4mm round faceted beads here with an AB finish and they are clear. I've got one little red teardrop bead. I have 18 of these 5mm beaded rondelles or daisy spacer beads, and I have one little 3mm silver ball. As well as that, I'm going to be using 25, I think, head pins, and I've got these two textured rings. These are 15mm. And I've got a lobster clasp. I'm also going to be using some 22 gauge wire. In terms of tools, I'm going to be using two pairs of chain nose pliers. I'm going to be using my round nose pliers. I'm also going to be using some flush cutters, and I'm going to be using my Xuron crimping tool, and I'm going to be using that just to tuck the ends in because it's nice and sharp and pointy, and it helps to get in there and tuck those ends in. Now the first thing we're going to do is make up a whole pile of dangles. So I'm going to take a head pin and one of my 6mm beads, and I'm going to place my bead onto my head pin, and I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and hold the bead at the top there. Now if you haven't made wire wrap loops before, I will leave you a video, a link down below, to a video all about how to make them because there's a lot to it. But I will try and walk you step by step through the process as well. So what I've done here is I have bent the wire. I put my pliers at the top of the bead and I've bent the wire over the top of the pliers. So I've got a little space between the top of the bead and the bend. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to tuck them into that bend there, and I'm about 4mm from the point of these pliers. I don't want a huge loop on this one, so what I'm going to do next, I've tucked that right into the bend there, and I'm going to push over and down so that the wire comes back down in the direction from where it came. So basically it's right down beside the bead. Now I'm going to let my hand go, turn the pliers, and I'm going to pull that wire over underneath the pliers. So I've got that little space there, and that space is going to be used to wrap the wire around. Now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and hold the loop. And I'm going to take my second pair of chain nose pliers and hold at the end of the wire, and I'm going to wrap the end of the wire around twice. So once, and if I can get hold of it, twice. Now this doesn't have to be perfectly neat, it's entirely up to you how neat you make it. So I'm just going to go a little bit further than twice and then pull it back a little bit. And the reason for that is I want it to be kind of bending in the right direction so that when I tuck it down, it will tuck down nicely. So that's what I have now. And I'm going to take my flush cutters and get right in there as close as I can. And I'm going to hold the end of the wire and the bead, whoops, and I'm going to trim that end off. So that is what I have now, and you can see there I have a little end sticking out. Hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to take my crimping pliers, and I like to do this with my crimping pliers because the divots in the pliers kind of make the wire go around the corner. So I'm just going to give it a wee squeeze there. I'm going to hold the loop instead of the bead because the bead was spinning around. And just tucking in that end. So you tuck and turn until that end is nicely tucked in. And you don't want to be able to feel it because you don't want it to catch on your clothes. So just keep squeezing and turning until that has happened. Now I need to make a whole pile of these. I need to make 6 of the lilac. I need to make 6 of the aqua, and I need to make 12 of the crystal. So I am going to go ahead and make those. Now I have my dangles all made. What I'm going to do next is take a piece of my wire, and I'm going to make a wire wrapped loop component with my red beads here. Now my best advice when you are making wire wrapped loops is to use more wire rather than less, because otherwise you end up with a tiny tail that you have difficulty wrapping around. So I'm going to take my piece of wire here in about the center, and I'm going to hold it in my pliers and bend it over at a right angle like that, just like before. Taking my round nose pliers, I'm turning it round, and I am going to make a reasonably large loop in the top here. So bending the wire around and bringing it down. Now sometimes when you do this, you will need to adjust sometimes the loop backwards so that you get the loop and the wire facing the way that you want it to. Okay, now I'm going to hold that in the jaws of my pliers, and I'm going to use my fingers, because this has lots of space there, to wrap it around twice. And that is what I have. Now I'm going to trim off my end, nice and close, holding it so it doesn't fly away. And I'm going to take my pliers and tuck in the end. Now if you don't have a pair of these pliers, that's fine. I just like to use them because they have nice fine tips. And the circular motion of the divots there, or the circular shape of the divots, tends to make the wire go round. But you can use a pair of chain nose pliers, that's fine. So there is my wire wrapped loop, and I'm going to pop on one of my beaded rondelles, one of my faceted rondelles, and another one of my beaded rondelles. So that's what I have. Now before I go any further, I have to make another one of those, and then I can move forward because I need to connect them. Okay, so now I have 2 of these. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to make another wire wrapped loop, but this time I'm going to put everything inside this loop. So I'm going to take my pliers and bend that over and make my loop, but before I close my loop I need to put my dangles inside, so just pulling that round like that, and I'm going to take, so that's what I have. Now I'm going to take one of my little crystal dangles and feed it on. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge to get it up through that place where the wire crosses, and you can kind of pull it up a little bit to get them through. One of my crystal, one of my aqua, another crystal, and my lilac one. And I'm going to wire wrap that loop around. Now you're wondering why I said I needed another one. It's because I was going to join it in and I didn't. I'm going to do it in a different way than I did before. Okay, trimming off the end and tucking it in. So there is my component, and what I need to do now is join this one to this one using the same technique. So I'm going to make another loop and feed on all of those dangles just like before. the same configuration. Now this time I'm also going to put on the loop of my red dangle, or my red component. So there's a lot going into that little loop that I've just made. Now I'm going to hold it as best I can and wire wrap it. So there is what I have now, and I need to do that again, so I have one more. So this time I have got my loop ready, and I'm putting on my dangles. And I'm putting on the end of my string of beads here, that red component, and I'm going to close up that loop, or wire wrap that loop. Off my end. Feels kind of weird doing this without any beads. All right, now I'm going to put on my beads. So one of my beaded rondelles, one of my faceted rondelles, and another beaded rondelle. Now this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this component, this textured ring, inside the wire wrapped loop. So just using the same process as before. And this loop does need to be on for that larger size too, to get the ring in there. Feeding it on. You will find that you need to open your loop a bit to let that component in. Once it's in there, you should be able to close it back up and wire wrap it. Now, my loop is looking a little weird. It's off to the side, so I'm going to straighten it with my pliers. There we go. That's what I have now. Now I'm going to make the component for this end, and that one is made with my snail beads. So taking another piece of wire, making a wire wrap loop, and I'm going to put on my loop of my rondelle here as well. So making my bend. Once again, you need the larger size loop for this one. Now, before I close it, I want to feed on that ring of the beaded of the rondelle component. Make sure you don't get the dangles. So I'm looking for this ring here. So the best way to do that is to hang it like that and feed it through. Now making my wire wrapped loop. Now if you get a wire wrapped loop that is not close, what you can do is come in with your pliers and just squeeze it up. So just squish the wraps up like that. Now, if you do make this bracelet, you will be an expert at wire wrap loops by the time you're finished. So that's what I have now. Now I'm going to put on a beaded rondelle, one of my snail beads, and another beaded rondelle. So that's what I have. Now I'm going to make a wire wrap loop in this end. There we go, that's what I have now. Now I need to repeat this, so I want 3 more connected and connected to this one. So I'll go ahead and do that. By the way, if you're interested in making the jewellery that I'm wearing today, I'm wearing my boho necklace. There we go, so you can see it. I'm wearing my dragonfly earrings, and I'm wearing a memory wire bracelet and a stretch bracelet. So I will leave you links to all of those tutorials in the description box. And I will also leave you a link to the blog post which contains everything you need to know about making this bracelet. If you want to see more, remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this video. So there's my bracelet now. And I need to add my clasp and my dangle. So for the clasp end, I'm going to use a wire wrapped loop to add my final snail bead. So grabbing some more of my wire. It's quite repetitive, this bracelet, but it's good practice for you if you wanted to learn how to wire wrap. So making my loop just like before. Now before I wire wrap this one, I'm going to pop on my clasp. And then I'm going to wrap it. That's what I have. Now I'm going to put on a beaded rondelle, my snail bead, and another beaded rondelle. There we go. Now I'm going to make a wire wrap loop in this end. You'll be tired of hearing me say that. And this time I need to feed on the linking ring, or the textured ring. So bringing it round and popping that ring in there, and now wrapping it. That's what I have now. Now this time I'm going to, on the other end, I'm going to make a loop with my leftover, one remaining faceted round bead. So once again, bending the wire and making my loop. Now this one needs to be reasonably sized because it has to go onto the end here of onto the ring. That's what I have. Now I'm going to feed on a beaded rondelle, my remaining aqua bead, and another beaded rondelle. And that's what I have. Now you know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to make a wire wrap loop. Now this one can be actually quite a small loop because there's not much going into this one. So that is what I have now. Now the final thing is to take one of my head pins, and I'm going to feed on my teardrop bead, a beaded rondelle, and my little ball. Like that. Now I'm going to make a wire wrap loop, and I'm going to put this loop inside. This one doesn't have to be a very big loop either. So there's my dangle. Now to wear this bracelet, the clasp comes in to that ring there. Just like that. So there is my bracelet all finished. I like the little dangle and I love those snail beads. They are gorgeous. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you would have done something different in the comment section below. You know what to do. Also, remember to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And if you liked this project, give me that thumbs up. Now, you will need the discount code for purchasing the supplies for this, and it is Snail. So remember to put that into the discount code box when you check out from our website if you want to buy the supplies to make this. Thank you so much for watching today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.